Morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, Lee. This is Front Row Conversations, and I'm so excited. This is our fourth show, and I want to welcome everyone. Happy Monday, everybody. We have another authentic conversation. Our focus, of course, is always around emotional and spiritual health, purposeful living from pastors' wives, ministers' wives, ministry leaders. And so this morning, our conversation is navigating the turbulence in ministry and in marriage. And I am so honored to have one of my dear friends, Lee Watts, Levitica Watts. And so she's coming to us as a friend, a minister's wife, a former pastor's wife, a director of marketing, working on her MBA, a woman of all seasons and all times. But I have asked her to be here today because for me, she has been an example of truly what it means to navigate turbulence. Change is the word, another word that we can use in ministry and in marriage. So, Lee, hey, you want to say good morning to everyone?
Good morning. Good morning. If you're in Atlanta, good Monday, rainy morning. But yes,
Yes.
good morning, everyone.
Okay, let's just jump right in here. And what I want to talk about, let me just lay the foundation. And I know that you're working on your MBA. And I was reading a book a couple of years ago, and I don't know whether you've ever heard of this person called Peter Vell. But he wrote a book around organizational management called Learning as a Way of Being. And so when I was reading that book, he talks about navigation and he uses the word white water. And white water would be those experiences in life that cause turbulence, that cause change, and they just happen. So you travel a lot, and so he uses the example of going through the airport. You've planned everything. You're going to be on time. You're going to get through security without any problems, but stuff happens. The
Right.
belt breaks. The train is late, and whatever. So I thought that would be a great conversation around ministry and around marriage because what happens, Lee, when we have planned everything in our lives as it relates to ministry, as it relates to marriage, as it relates to pastoring, and then change happens? Can you talk about some of that from your personal experience?
Well, yes, definitely. I love the phrase, and I think it's a Jewish proverb about people plan and God laughs,
Yes.
because it's so funny how we plan our lives out and we have these huge expectations and we just believe that things are going to work out the way that we expect, but God has different plans for us. And I definitely have seen that in my life. I've been married for 15 years now, and I do remember when I married my husband, he was already pastoring, and I just had these grand illusions and plans about what ministry was going to be like and marriage and the white picket fence and this growing prosperous church and just all these things, and then life happened.
Okay. Life
Yes.
happens. Okay.
Life
Okay.
happened.
Uh-huh.
And it's one of those where you do need to go into whatever it is knowing that it's not our plans, and looking to God to direct us. Sometimes we overplan and overexpect, and we have it all written out. We've never really consulted God about it. So it can throw you off, and if you're not ready for it, definitely even maybe weaken a little bit. So I was there. I was there where I
Okay.
expected it to go a certain way, and it didn't. And because I can be somewhat of a control freak,
Yes, Lee.
yes, I tried to
Uh-huh.
force it, force it to
Okay.
go the way that I wanted it to go and move
Okay.
things around. And sometimes it's even forcing your spouse to do what you think he should do because you have that vision, that plan in
Yes.
mind.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to let go of the control and sit back.
Okay, you know what? And it's interesting you said because I was there. I was in that place where I wanted to make things happen. And my question that I would ask, and I don't know whether we have enough time to answer it on this show, was God there? What would you say God was saying in your white water experience? And what I'm hearing you saying that we can plan, and a
Hmm.
lot of times we go into ministry. I mean, everyone thinks, oh my goodness, if we have all the tools, all the skills, all the degrees equals mega church, equals large ministry, and all of these things. So we think in our minds. So the question becomes, you said, I was there. I was thinking it would happen. I'm not necessarily saying, let me put a little piece out here, anything about mega churches. I'm just saying we always have this vision of what we want for
Right.
our lives in ministry. Was God there, or what was the conversation that God was having with you during this time, or were you listening?
For a while, I was not listening. I was just,
Oh my goodness, I know you just didn't say that. Okay, go ahead.
yes, I was not listening. I
Hmm.
pretended I was listening because
Okay.
I would do the quiet time. I would do the prayer. I would raise my hand in service and surrender all. I would do all of that.
Mm.
But I was hearing what I believe I wanted to believe that God was saying, but was
Mhm.
but there was always a still small voice. And back to what you were saying, what was God saying? Where God was saying, let it go. Because mine was more of a control issue. When you talk about what are you doing in that whitewater experience, I
Yes.
am trying to tell that wave to do this. I'm trying to, uh, force an issue and take control of a situation. And so I always heard God telling me to be still and let go. And it was something that I found very difficult to do. And for a long time, I tried to control the situation, force my own way, and create the plan and create the dream myself.
Okay, create the plan and create the dream. Lee, could you let our audience know that you and your husband, after how many years in full-time ministry, made a decision to uh, get out of full-time ministry as it relates to pastoring? Say something about that so they'll understand what we're talking about as it relates to that was a major whitewater experience.
Oh
Can you
yes.
say something about that?
We When I married my husband, he was already pastoring, and we've been married for 15 years. So I've been with him for 15 years in full-time ministry, and he'd been in ministry before that. So after forcing and trying to create and struggle that experience of wrestling with God and trying to force things, we finally came to a decision where we had to say, what do we really want? And what is God
Hmm.
really saying?
Hmm.
And through a lot of prayer and humbling and letting
Mm.
go and control issues, we finally, as together, said that we were going to leave our church
Hmm.
and step back. And that was very difficult because, again, me wanting to be in control, it felt like a failure. It felt
Mm.
like I was failing, I was giving up. Um, and and then also because as pastors' wives, we're, in every speech you hear, at every
Yes.
appreciation service, you hear how, oh, it's the woman, behind the pastor that helps him be all that he can be, and behind every good man is a good woman. So in my eyes, it felt like if my husband was stepping down from ministry and stepping back from full-time ministry, that
Hmm.
obviously his wife wasn't a good wife
Wow.
because he
Okay.
was not doing what he had been, in my view, called to do. So it was extremely difficult because I took it very personal that
Okay.
somehow I did not do my job.
Okay. How were you able to navigate that, or are you still navigating through that whole process of feeling like I didn't complete my assignment, I didn't complete my task? my husband has made a decision to not get out of ministry per se, but to
Right.
step away from pastoring. And clearly, I know that, like my spouse, he succeeded his father in
Mm-hmm.
ministry. And so that's a whole nother show too, as well,
Yes.
in terms of the implications of that. When you have succeeded your father in ministry and now you're saying, Dad, I am stepping away tremendously. The emotional turbulence that
Yes.
the two of you might have felt. And I know you can't speak for Pastor Terence, but
Right.
how were you able to just even navigate that piece of feeling like a failure, so to speak?
Well, I will say, as you mentioned in the beginning, I'm still navigating it. It's
Okay.
only been a few months.
Mhm.
Um, but one of a few of the ways that I have been navigating through this is, first of all, realizing that you have to make a decision. Um, you have to make a decision about who you want to be
Mm.
and if you're going to survive it or not. Because I
Okay.
think once you make a decision, um, it's no longer, again, relating to your analogy of the white water, that you can either let the waves and the storm and everything take over you and you ride it
Yes.
out,
Yes.
or you can say, you know what, we're going to survive this. We're going
Mhm.
to figure out who we want to be and who what this is going to be to our lives, and let's hold on tight and go for the ride. And so um, I had to decide that uh, that God has a bigger plan, and that
Oh.
our marriage is our first ministry. And
Oh.
then secondly, I had to dig deep and figure out and remember that this title, this place, is not really my ministry. Like, what is the core of who I am?
Yes.
And that red string throughout my life will continue. Like, it wasn't an ending place. This position, this title, this place, it was just a chapter in a bigger story in my life. And when I still have to tell myself that all the time, that that was just a chapter. There's more to my book, and I'm writing the next chapter. And
Oh.
it's just it's a walk of faith every day. And
Mhm.
just even the failure, failure is relative, and just because you end one place doesn't mean it's a failure. It's just a chapter in a bigger story, and I have
That's
to
good.
continue
Yeah,
that.
that's good. Lee, so you said it's just a chapter in your life. And I said this in my first show with Clyde, and I'm going to say it to you because, we do miss the perks. I mean, like, do
Yes,
you think about
yes.
that when you don't have your reserved parking space any longer and eating off the special china at the church dinner when everybody else is using plastic or styrofoam? Okay,
Right.
but but I thought it was interesting that you said, but you're more than that, in terms of your
Right.
purpose, in terms of who you are. Now, this is my next question. Of course, from this book, Learning as a Way of Being, Peter Vell talks about learning is not only, and he said, change. I'm going to read this. He says, learning is changes a person makes in herself that increase the know why, and the know how. And so my question would be to you, as we are talking about navigation, the turbulence, what would be the know what for you that you learned in this process? And then I'm going to say, what would be the know how, then the know why? Does that make any sense? And I think you've already addressed some of the know what, that you are more than your title, that you
Yes.
and your spouse were able to step away and really see what God was saying to you in your life. Anything else you want to add to that? Or if not, we can move to the know why.
I just want to, I mean, probably not more to add, but I just really want
Mhm.
to elaborate on that you have to know the what, and not
Mhm.
get so tied up in a position or a place, and really
Mm.
know why am I here? What is my purpose? What is my true ministry? Because whatever that is, it again will tie through every area of your life. So I really had to dig deep and not
Okay.
get lazy.
Okay.
And because again, like you were saying, the perks of being a pastor's wife is not only the, the parking spaces and things like that, but there is an automatic influence that you're given.
So the automatic perks of what you're giving, Peter Vale also talks about what it means for a person to possess this knowledge and to possess this understanding. And I think that's key. I think that's critical as we look at navigating change. We're just going to continue the conversation. I thought it was very interesting that as Lee was talking about the importance of what it means to know who you are and what your purpose was about, that the whole idea of being, and so often in ministry we are focused on doing, and we're activity driven, and so when life comes, when our whitewater experience happens, it kind of throws us off course. And so here is a critical piece, is what she's saying, as it relates to the changes that she and her husband had when it was time for them to step away from full-time ministry. Another thing that we can look at as we look at this entire piece is, what do we do with the turbulence that happens in our lives when we were not warned that they would come in ministry, and when we were not warned when they would happen? And so how does one navigate the change? And I'm reminded of the when Hurricane Katrina hit in New Orleans and the devastation of that. And I think Spike Lee did a piece later called When the Levees Broke, that all the change that happened into with the people, and all the things that happened to them, they were not prepared. But after a moment of stepping back in and pulling things together, they were able to navigate their situation. And many people are still rebounding for that. Well, when I think about that situation, I often think about what happens to us in ministry when there are changes that occur when we step away from ministry. And I think the statistics will show that hundreds, if not thousands, of persons leave full-time ministry daily because of various situations. And so what do we do with that, and how do we handle when the turbulence comes in our life? Another piece of this is, as we look at the gospel, I think it's one of the gospels, where Jesus raises the question when it was asked about who would sit on the right side or who would sit on the left side of them. He raises the question of, can you drink the cup? And Henry Nouwen has a book called Can You Drink the Cup? And in that book it talks about, often our cup has sorrow and blessings in it. And so the question becomes, can we drink that? And as we are looking at today's conversation, the question becomes, are we able to navigate change? How do we handle change in our lives when it comes? And I have found my own personal experience, we could either embrace the change, or we could pull the covers over our head and say we're not going to deal with the change, or we can decide that, okay, I'm going to embrace it, but I'm going to also not only embrace it, but I'm going to move forward in that as we look at ministry and as we look at navigation of that. And I often think of the scripture that says in Romans 8:28, for we know that all things work together for the good of them that love the Lord, who are called according to his purpose. And what that means for me sometimes is that, for we know, just focusing on that part, for we know that turbulence will come, for we know that change will come, for we know that sickness will come, for we know that struggles in our marriages and in our relationships will come. But the rest of that scripture rests on the point of, For we know that all things are working together for our good, for them who love the Lord, who are called according to his purpose. And sometimes that's the only piece that you have to hold on to when you're navigating turbulence, when you're in the midst of change in your relationships, when you're in the midst of the ministry problems and situations. So we know that that's where we are with this whole piece. And this is a prime example of white
Exactly.
water. I
Yeah.
mean, you cannot predict turbulence and navigation. So let's talk about the lesson that we learned from that one. But you were saying a lot of good stuff because that's the know what,
Right.
knowing the purpose, and how do we handle when stuff happens? Like we had no control of everything this morning. Clearly, no control over that, and there was some workable solutions that we were able to take care of. Thank God for your help desk. Thank God for Carl Burrell.
Right.
So, as we're talking about navigation, I raised the question to myself while you were away, uh, uh, navigating the change, and what do we do with the turbulence when we're not warned that it will come to us in ministry and in marriage? Were there signposts along the way as you guys were making a change, or you want to say more about that?
There
That
were.
could be the why. That could be the
Yeah.
why.
I think
Hmm.
there were, and we ignored them. And
Okay.
because I do think that God often will give you warnings of things,
Okay.
whether it's to slow down, take more time for each other,
Mhm.
burnout, things like that. And there were signs, and we ignored them. And that's
Mhm.
often what people do when they think they're in control. They
Yes.
ignore
Okay. You just
and they,
ignored the signs,
yes,
right?
yeah.
Okay. So, and here's the thing. I want to raise this question. What happens when the storm or storms seem to overtake us? And have you ever felt like that? I know I have. I have felt in ministry. Oh my goodness. I'm a non-swimmer. So when you're a non-swimmer, you stay close. You're in the shallow. You stay close to the wall. You're not able to push off. And I can't say that I haven't had swimming lessons. There are trust issues there as it relates to swimming. But what happens when the water gets you're bobbing? You have your life jacket on, but it's like it's really getting in your nose. How do you handle that as it relates
Well,
to change?
I think that kind of gets into spiritual disciplines. And
Oh. Mhm.
I'm a writer by nature,
Mhm.
so journaling was a big help for me.
Mhm.
Um, so I encourage people to find out what your thing is, what your area is, how you release, but this is one thing that I think sometimes we forget. And I
Mhm.
do think it's sometimes it can be seen as a spiritual discipline, and it helped me a lot when the water was overtaking me. My
Mm.
natural inclination is to pull back, kind of like what you said about staying close to the wall
Mhm.
when things are coming too fast, and I'll
Right.
withdraw a little bit. But I had to train myself and tell myself to hold on to people and to
Mm.
talk it out and to connect with sisters and to connect with other people. And I think sometimes as women, especially in today's world of social media where there's these shallow relationships,
Yes.
you don't dig deep. And I think when you think things are going to overtake you, you've got to come to a place and find that support group where you feel like I can be vulnerable with these people, I can be me, and I can say what I need to say. You find that group of people, you have that group of people, and you hold on to them. Our natural, again, inclination when things are especially in ministry, is sometimes
Yes.
we keep it between me and our husband, and we are kind of secretive about it, and we don't talk about it. But I think in ministry, it's important to talk it out, because first of all, you're going to find out you're not the only one, and it's sometimes not as bad as you think it is.
Right.
And it's just important to have those connections. So see that as a spiritual discipline. Connect to people, talk it out. get out of your house, get out of the church, and
I know you
realize
didn't
there's
say get
more to
out the
life.
church. Lee, I know you didn't say get out the church.
Yes, get out the church. There's more to life.
I know. Tell me, there's more to life. That's going to be a show. There's
Yes,
more to life than
yes,
the church.
yes.
Okay, okay, absolutely. A couple of things you talked about, and as you've been instrumental in my developing metamorphosis ministry, and
Hmm.
my tagline, of course, is connect, grow, change. And I think you said some key pieces there in terms of the if we're going to navigate turbulence or change in ministry and marriage, the importance of connection and how important that is. And it is so difficult. You and I both know we're probably pastors' wives, ministry leaders, pastors, people of faith. We're probably some of the most disconnected people that there are in terms of
Yes.
what it means to build authentic relationships and have authentic conversation. So you said a couple of things there, a place where you're willing to be vulnerable. Let's talk about vulnerability and how important it is
Mm,
to be vulnerable as it relates to our navigation, as it relates to our coming through the white water process. Can you say
yes.
something about that?
It takes a lot of courage to be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it is coming to a place where, as I mentioned at the top of our program, it's a decision. It's not
Mm-hmm.
a feeling like, okay, I'm gonna be warm and fuzzy and vulnerable today. No, you have to come to a decision that I am going to be who I am,
Mm.
flaws and all, and
Yes.
share this. And it's going to hurt, and I may even get betrayed in the process, but um, I'm making the decision to be vulnerable, and I'm going to take a chance. So it is definitely a place of courage and a place of decision to do that. Um,
Mm.
but the payoff is critical, because I don't
Mm-hmm.
think I would have survived or continue to go through this, survive, had I not been open and vulnerable with some key people about what I was going through and what I was feeling.
Right. Okay.
We
I
would
think that's
we would have drowned.
right. I think that's a key piece as we are navigating change. I was in my sermon before you could join us back on the air. I was talking about when Jesus, when the two brothers were asking who was going to sit at the right side and the left side, and this whole concept with Henry Nouwen's book, "Can You Drink the Cup?"
Right.
And Jesus raises that question about drinking the cup. And remember, in the first part of that, it talks about holding the cup. And in the cup, are blessings in sorrow. How have you been able to hold your cup of change, your cup of just all the stuff that you're doing? I mean, you're working on another degree. You're just in a new position. You marketing, and you're a mother of boys, of young boys. Is
Right.
are you able to hold your cup has a lot in it, Lee? It really does. How are you able to hold the cup and say more about spiritual disciplines, maybe helping you with that piece?
Um, Again, it is finding that time, because we can get so busy that we don't do spiritual disciplines. So it's
Hmm.
finding that time to connect to people, have that
Hmm.
10-minute conversation with whoever that sister is, and just be real for 10 minutes and cut
Hmm.
everything off.
Hmm.
Finding that time to read or journal or whatever it is. So again, I know I sound like a broken record when it comes to
No,
this,
it's good. It's good.
but it's a decision. It's
Hmm.
like we all have to come to a place of decision and decide, who am I going to be?
Mm.
Who do I want to end up as? And do I want to have, a clear mind? Do I want to be authentic? Do I want to be all these things? And if so, then that means I have to decide that I have to connect with people. I have to pray this through. I have to, and even when we talk about, can you drink this cup?
Mm.
Sometimes it's not even a can question, because with God all things are possible. We know that. But it's a will you question. Will you?
Now.
Will
Oh,
you? The decision. Lord, I am deciding to drink this cup. I know you're going to give me the strength to do it. It's just He's
right.
waiting for us to decide, are we going to do it? And
Yes.
so even with everything on my plate, it's a matter of decision.
Okay.
Decision.
A matter
Yeah.
of decision. I think that's key in terms of a matter of decision because the question is raised, can you drink the cup and will you drink the cup? Do you have the ability? Yes, we have the ability, but I think the piece becomes making the decision to do that and to have that conversation and to connect with others. Okay,
Hmm.
so as we're navigating, we're going down the river now. You know, we've decided to get in the boat. We have on all our gear. We've talked about sometimes the boat may overturn, has some high waves and everything. But most of the time, now, I would never do whitewater rafting for real. I mean, water, I would never do that, of course. But there are people who do, and it's really interesting that they're not alone on the boat. That there are
Right.
people on there. There are people who have experience, who can show you how to lean a certain way and how to go a certain way. So, what? I guess my question I want to ask how, and you said this as it relates to relationship, how on your journey, on your navigation, this whole piece, and then I'm going to shift it to this more modern day with GPS systems and how that works. But in this journey, how important has it been to have people of wisdom and of experience or people that have gone through what you've gone through, the change? How important has that been, or have you tapped into that?
Yes, I have tapped into it, and it's been critical. Again, getting people around you that don't necessarily think just like you think or say the same things you say, but you want those people of wisdom that are going to challenge you, that are going to help you put it all out on the table, that are going to push back and ask you the right questions,
Mm-hmm.
and not just you for yourself, but you want to encourage your spouse to have those people around you as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because it does, as you related to the white water rafting, it does no good if only one person in the boat or in the raft is seeking help and directing and moving. You want to encourage and pray that both of you are getting direction and connecting to someone.
Okay, that's key. And we said ministry. Let's talk about marriage. How have you been able, and I know I have my own story, which it would be a show within itself, the ability to navigate turbulence in marriage. How have you been able to do that? You and your spouse been able to navigate turbulence in marriage. Marriage is marriage. I
Yes.
don't care who you are. And we had Vicky Keys on earlier. I mean, that's like we could do 12 months of just talking about marriage. But how have you and your spouse been able to even navigate the turbulence of marriage? And we know the impact of that in ministry, but how have you been able
Wow.
to do that? Mhm.
Um, it's difficult. I mean, because again, it's an everyday process. There's
Mm,
no one little secret that's going to make it work every single day. But I do think you do have to come to a realization that, especially for a control freak like me,
okay, Lee.
that
Oh, this is just instrumental. You heard it. You heard it all over the internet airways. She's a control freak. But look at here. I already know that. But
I
anyway,
know
go ahead. Go ahead.
that coming to the realization that not everything is going to be perfect. And
Right,
when
right,
you say that together as in a marriage and say this is not going to be like we expected it to be, this aspect of our marriage, whether it be the finances or how the house is going or how the
right.
careers are going,
Mm,
but it's a season and we're going to get through it, and don't expect it to look like what we thought it was going to look like 15 years ago.
yes, yes.
Just it is what it is right now, and let's press through it. And I think that's critical again in marriage, that we got to let go of that dream from 15 or 20 years ago and say, what is it right now? And let's work from here.
That's
And,
a good piece, Lee. And
yeah.
you know why? Because sometimes in clergy marriages, I don't know who told us this story, oh my God, I'm married to the man of God, or if your spouse is a female, I'm married to the woman of God. And so, therefore, we're not going to have any issues. We're just going to love the Lord and love each other. And Wrong answer. And
Right.
so, as a matter of fact, I think, I always say that anything that Jesus taught us, anything that's in the Word of God, it starts at home.
Oh, yeah.
So when I'm looking at my husband early in the morning and the Word says, blessed are the peacemakers, I have to look over at him like, God, are you saying I'm going to have to be a peacemaker? Especially, you are a control freak, and I always have to have the last word. Okay, you didn't hear me say that. But I guess my whole point in navigation, it starts, I mean, the hard work starts where? At home?
Right. Yes,
Definitely. Yes. It
definitely.
starts in our house. Can you say about that? I mean, just living this thing out, walking it out.
Oh, it's so difficult, but if we truly have a relationship with the Lord, we're going to have to want the hard stuff and the good stuff, and nothing will grow you up and make you see yourself like marriage will.
Okay.
And it's like I'm holding a mirror up to you, and I've definitely been able to see the parts that I needed to work on through my husband, through my marriage. It's
Okay.
easy to be a good Christian when you live by yourself, but when
Yes. Absolutely.
you
Well,
know,
we're getting ready to wrap this conversation. I mean, this has been a great conversation.
yeah.
Lee, I've said this to everyone, and I'm truly mean I have to have you back. I mean, because the
Oh, okay.
conversation is just starting. And I want to say today was a true test of what it means to navigate white water when Peterville says things just happen because we don't plan them. I'm thankful for Lee Watts for being so open and so willing to express what it means to navigate change and turbulence at this new season in her and her husband's life as it relates to ministry. And so, Lee, I want to say thank you. And, I will close with this verse, which is really, really key for me, Philippians 1:6. And I think you took a picture of me
Mhm.
if you would visit my fan page at Facebook with my hand on that scripture that says,
Yeah.
God, who began a good work in you, in me, will bring it to completion until the day of Jesus Christ. So it lets me know that as we're navigating the different changes in our life, God is not through with us. And
Okay.
Lee, happy Monday.
Thank you.
Thank you for being a guest. Thank you, SylviaGlobal.com, for having us. Thank you again, Gail Sylvia, for this wonderful opportunity to have authentic conversations. God bless you, Lee.
Thank
Take
you.
care. All right.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.